Through my office window, the Manhattan skyline glitters like broken glass, beautiful but sharp enough to cut, just like everything else in this city, including my memories. I adjust my blazer and check my reflection in the window. At 32, I've mastered the art of looking perfectly put together even when I'm not. The corner office at Miller & Ross Marketing Agency is my reward for years of 70-hour workweeks and sacrificed weekends. That, and the persistent ache of wondering, what if? I've built my career on turning failing brands into success stories. My latest campaign for a struggling athletic wear company just went viral, adding another win to my growing portfolio. The industry knows me as the revival queen, but few know how much of myself I've poured into each project, using work to fill the spaces where other things should be. My assistant, Tracy, appears in the doorway with my afternoon coffee. "The quarterly meeting starts in 10 minutes, Anna, and..." She hesitates, which isn't like her. There's a rumor going around about changes in senior leadership. I take the coffee, ignoring how my hand wants to shake. Changes always happen, Tracy. That's why we stay ahead of them. But as I gather my materials for the meeting, I can't shake the feeling that something's shifting. The last time I felt this way was 5 years ago, when Jake Thompson walked into my life, and then out of it with a betrayal that cut me open to the core, leaving me with nothing but questions, and a determination to never let professional and personal lines blur again. My phone buzzes with an email from corporate. From the head of the board, no less. The subject line reads, "Strategic restructuring, all hands meeting tomorrow." Looks like Tracy's rumor is proven true. I take a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. Whatever's coming, I've worked too hard to let anything or anyone derail me now. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice whispers that the past has a way of catching up, especially when you've spent years running from it.
The London office feels like a gilded cage today. Even from the 40th floor of this gleaming tower, with the Thames snaking below like a silver ribbon, I can't shake the restlessness that's been building since I received the email about returning to New York. 5 years. 5 years of building an international portfolio, of turning around failing European brands with the kind of innovative campaigns that made my reputation. 5 years of trying to forget Anna Miller's face when she looked at me that last day. Hurt and betrayal etched into features I still see in my dreams. I still think of her, and the hurt is as raw as it was the day it happened. "Mr. Thompson?" Laura appears with a stack of folders, her perfume overwhelming as she leans close to me. "Your flight details for tomorrow are confirmed. The New York office is expecting you Monday morning." I step back subtly, maintaining professional distance, a dance we've been doing since she followed me to London. Thanks, Laura. Her presence is a constant reminder of everything that went wrong in New York. The email about strategic restructuring sits open on my desktop, frustratingly vague. All I know is that the head of the board wants to see me, and that going back means facing everything and everyone I left behind. I run a hand through my hair, probably messing up the careful styling my image consultant insists upon. At 34, I'm one of the youngest executive creative directors in the industry, but today I feel every one of those years weighing on my shoulders. "I'll miss our little chats," Laura says, lingering by my desk. "New York won't be the same without you." "I'm sure you'll cope, Laura." I give her a closed-mouthed smile. "Actually," Laura perches on the edge of my desk, despite my obvious discomfort, "I've been thinking, when you get the promotion, and we both know you will, I could request a transfer back to New York." She reaches out as if to straighten my tie, but I lean back in my chair, maintaining distance. "That won't be necessary," I say firmly, standing to create more space between us. "I don't expect you to follow me across the planet again." She laughs a breathy little laugh. "It's not a problem. You know no one understands your needs like I do. Remember how lost you were those first few months after Anna's betrayal?" She says Anna's name like it's something distasteful. "I was the one who helped you through that." The mention of Anna makes my jaw clench, but I press on, keeping my personal life and failure out of the office, just like I should have done 5 years ago. "I appreciate your work these past years, Laura." I keep my tone professional, But I don't expect you to upend your career because of mine. Her expression hardens for a moment before she forces a smile. You'll change your mind. You need me more than you think. She stands, smoothing her skirt. If that's all, I'll go ahead and get back to work. She heads for the door, then pauses. Just remember, I've always been in your corner, Jake. After she leaves, I sit heavily in my chair. Going back to New York has pulled up memories I'd perfected forgetting. Anna. As if I could ever forget her. I pull up her latest campaign on my tablet. The athletic wear revival is brilliant, of course. Everything she touches turns to gold. I recognize her signature style, the emotional depth beneath the polished surface, the way she finds the heart of a brand and makes it beat again. It's what drew me to her professionally before everything else drew me to her personally. Office romances were forbidden, but Anna was impossible to resist. Her brilliance, her passion, the way she could read a room and know exactly what a client needed. We tried to keep it professional, but some forces are stronger than corporate policy. Your car's here, Laura interrupts my thoughts. I look out of the window to see the sun dipping towards the horizon. I've been thinking of her for hours, lost in my thoughts. For the farewell dinner? Her tone suggests she's expecting an invitation. Thanks, I'll head down. I grab my jacket, deliberately casual. The team has planned some elaborate goodbye at the Shard. They're good people, most of them, but they don't know that. My mind is already across the ocean, fixed on a corner office where the only woman I've ever truly wanted is probably still working late. In the elevator's mirrored walls, I study my reflection. I've changed since New York. Harder around the edges, maybe. Success etched into the lines around my eyes. But the ache when I think of Anna, that hasn't changed at all.
The quarterly meeting drags on, but I'm barely present. My mind keeps drifting to another day 5 years ago as though it were only yesterday, to a meeting that happened in this very room. I remember every detail of that morning. The Callahan account, our biggest potential client, was hanging in the balance. Jake and I had been working on it for months, staying late, ordering takeout, building something that felt bigger than just a campaign. I thought we were building something else too, something personal that made my heart race whenever he looked at me across the conference room. For a second, I'm there again. Standing in the preparation room, my presentation notes spread across the table, when that anonymous text arrived. Just thought you should know. Thompson's been meeting with Callahan behind your back. He's planning to tank the presentation. Heard him say the account's too big for a woman to handle. Check his private emails if you don't believe me. I still don't know who sent it to me, but the taste of betrayal is still bitter in my mouth. I'd trusted Jake, despite everyone warning me about office romances, despite the competitive nature of our industry. We'd spent nights brainstorming together, his creativity flowing perfectly into my strategic thinking. His smile when we cracked a particularly tough concept, the way his hand would brush mine when we reached for the same coffee cup. Anna, Sarah from digital marketing is looking at me expectantly. I realize I've missed a question. Sorry, could you repeat that? I straighten in my chair, pushing the memories away. But they won't stay buried. I remember how I confronted Jake's assistant, Laura, who reluctantly confirmed the private meetings. How I found the modified presentation files on the shared drive, changes I hadn't approved, changes that would have destroyed months of work. I'd never given Jake the chance to explain. There was too much proof for me to believe his lies. Pride and hurt and anger had formed a wall around my heart. I rebuilt the entire presentation in 4 hours, presented it alone, and landed the account. By the time I learned Jake had been transferred to London without a word of goodbye, I'd convinced myself it was better this way. The meeting finally ends, and I escape to my office, closing the door. My hands are shaking as I check my emails, a habit I've developed whenever memories of Jake surface. As if reading my thoughts, a new message appears in my inbox. From Laura. My stomach drops. I haven't heard from her since she transferred to the London office after Jake left. We'd stayed in touch briefly. She'd been the one to confirm the email I'd been sent turned out to be true. Opening the email feels like peeling off an old bandage, knowing it will hurt. Anna. I hope this finds you well. I thought you should know, Jake's returning to New York. He'll be at tomorrow's strategic restructuring meeting. I remember how things ended, and I didn't want you to be blindsided. Take care. Laura. The words blur on the screen as my carefully constructed world tilts on its axis. Jake, here. Tomorrow. I wonder if my thoughts this morning conjured him from that place inside me I don't want to analyze. I lean back in my chair, my heart hammering against my ribs. 5 years of building my reputation, of proving I didn't need anyone else to succeed. 5 years of ignoring the quiet voice that whispers late at night, wondering if I should have listened to his side of the story. 5 years of pretending I don't still dream about his touch, his smile, the way he used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. My reflection in the window looks pale, uncertain. I hardly recognize this version of myself, the successful, confident marketing director suddenly reduced to the vulnerable woman I was 5 years ago. The Manhattan traffic below hums with its usual intensity, but all I can hear is the blood rushing in my ears. Tomorrow. I'll have to face him tomorrow, in a meeting that could determine the future of our careers, no less. I pull up the agenda for tomorrow's meeting, trying to focus on the words strategic restructuring, but all I can see is Jake's face the last time I saw him, before his betrayal came to light, before everything fell apart. My phone buzzes with a text from Tracy. Conference room booked for tomorrow's prep session at 8 a.m. Right. Work. Focus on work. That's what got me through the last 5 years. That's what will get me through tomorrow. But as I gather my things to leave, I catch my hands trembling again. Because despite everything, the betrayal, the hurt, the years of silence, there's a part of me that's terrified to discover that one look from Jake Thompson might still have the power to undo everything I've built. Tomorrow. I have until tomorrow to rebuild my walls, strengthen my defenses, and prepare to face the one person who ever had the power to break my heart.
The farewell dinner at the Shard feels surreal, London's lights spreading beneath me like stars fallen to earth. Laura's unexpected presence at the table, she'd somehow managed to wrangle an invitation, makes the evening even more uncomfortable. Earlier, she'd cornered me with news that made my stomach turn. I've booked a ticket on your flight, Jake. I couldn't bear to let you face New York alone. To Jake Thompson. Someone toasts, but I barely register it. My mind is 5 years and an ocean away, replaying the day everything fell apart. The day that changed everything between Anna and me. I'm back in that taxi, racing across Manhattan, my phone dying as I tried desperately to reach Anna. The intel from Marcus in research had been devastating. Jake, someone's leaked our strategy to Henderson and Co. They're preparing a counter-presentation for Callahan. You need to move fast. My heart had been pounding as I called every contact I had, pulling strings to get emergency access to proprietary market data that would protect our work, protect Anna. I take a sip of whiskey, letting it burn. If you'll excuse me for a moment, I murmur, stepping away from Laura's reaching hand. By the window, I loosen my tie, remembering how it felt like a noose that day. The emergency meeting with our data partners had run brutally long. 4 hours of negotiating, threatening, practically begging for the information we needed. When I finally got back to the office, presentation reinforced and ready to share with Anna, she was already in with Callahan. Alone. The look she gave me when she emerged, God, it still haunts me. Ice and fire and hurt all at once, like I'd committed some unforgivable betrayal. Before I could explain, before I could tell her about the crisis I'd averted, about how I'd spent the morning protecting our work, our shared dream, my phone rang. Singapore, urgent, a major account on the verge of collapse, the CEO himself requesting me specifically. The London office won't be the same without you, Laura says, appearing at my elbow with another drink, her hand lingering on my arm. But New York will be exciting, won't it? I manage a half smile. Thank you, Laura. I'm sure it will be. I step away, but I'm still lost in memories. The rushed packing, the desperate messages Anna wouldn't answer, the way my hasty departure must have looked like an admission of guilt. By the time I landed in Singapore, she'd blocked my number. 2 weeks turned into a month, then 6. When they offered me the London position, it seemed easier to accept than to keep fighting silence. Too late. It was all too late. I touch my phone screen where Anna's name still sits in my contacts, undeleted after all these years. Tomorrow, I'm going back. Back to New York, back to the truth, back to her. 5 years of success, of awards, of rebuilding my reputation. None of it matters compared to the chance to finally explain. One last toast, calls out the creative director. To new possibilities, Laura adds, raising her glass. I raise my glass automatically, but in my mind, I'm already rehearsing what I'll say when I see Anna again. How do you explain 5 years of silence? How do you tell someone that every success, every achievement felt hollow without them?
Tracy hands me the morning reports, her concerned expression reminding me of Laura 5 years ago. I can still see Laura standing in my office that day, a manila folder in her manicured hands. Anna, honey, I hate to be the one to tell you this. Her voice had been soft, sympathetic, the kind of sympathy that cuts deeper than cruelty. The memory spirals me back to those endless nights after Jake left, when doubt and insecurity ate away at my confidence like acid. I remember sitting in my apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and spreadsheets, Laura's revelations playing on repeat in my mind. Look at these meeting logs, she'd said, spreading documents across my desk. Private sessions with Callahan that weren't on your calendar, and these email threads. She'd been gentle, like someone delivering terminal news. I've worked for Jake for 2 years. I never wanted to believe he'd do something like this. The evidence had been damning. Calendar entries, email exchanges, modified presentation files. He's been systematically undermining your strategy, Laura had explained, her voice thick with concern. I couldn't stay quiet anymore, not when your career is at stake. I'd been too shocked to question why Jake's assistant was showing me this, too hurt to wonder about her motivations. Instead, I remember staring at the documents until the words blurred, analyzing every moment Jake and I had shared, every touch, every whispered promise, searching for signs I should have seen. These men, Laura had said, perching on my desk, they see talented women as threats. I've watched it happen before. She'd touched my shoulder softly. I'm so sorry, Anna. I know how much you cared about him. Now, standing in my office 5 years later, the betrayal feels fresh again, raw and bleeding, as if no time has passed at all. Anna? Tracy's voice pulls me back to the present. The board meeting starts in 10 minutes. I nod, gathering my composure like armor. Laura had been transferred to London shortly after Jake left, telling me that he'd requested her, and that was the only reason she was going to follow him there as his assistant. I'd received a few emails from her over the years, always with that same concerned tone, always with some new piece of information about Jake's career moves or personal life that I pretended not to care about. Her last email yesterday, warning me about Jake's return, had that same sympathetic undertone that made my skin crawl with remembered pain. Just thought you should know. I'd thrown myself into work, turning those sleepless nights into fuel for my ambition. Every successful campaign was a brick in the wall I'd built around my heart. Every industry award a validation that I didn't need him, or anyone, to succeed. So why does a small voice in my head keep whispering that I never really got Jake's side of the story, that I let someone else's version of events write the ending to ours? I straighten my jacket, pushing the thoughts away. It doesn't matter now. Jake Thompson is returning to New York, and I need to focus on protecting everything I've built since he left. Even if seeing him again might destroy me in the process. I gather my presentation materials and head toward the boardroom, my heels clicking against the marble floors like a countdown. Every step feels weighted with memory. This is the same path I walked, heart in pieces, to deliver that Callahan presentation alone. I pause outside the boardroom, checking my reflection in the glass wall. The woman staring back at me looks polished, professional, untouchable. It's a carefully crafted illusion that took years to perfect. But will it hold up under those blue eyes that used to see right through every defense I built? Taking a deep breath, I reach for the door handle. 5 years of carefully maintained distance is about to collapse into zero. 5 years of questions I never asked, explanations I never heard, feelings I never fully buried, all about to explode in the space of one meeting. The boardroom door swings open and my eyes immediately fall on him. Jake Thompson stands at the head of the conference table, his suit impeccably tailored to shoulders that seem broader than I remember. London has been good to him. He's all refined edges now, success carved into every line of his face. But his eyes... God, his eyes are exactly the same. That intense blue that used to see right through my professional facade, that used to make me feel both seen and exposed. Time stretches like pulled taffy, slow and sticky and impossible to escape, because there he is, Jake Thompson in the flesh, not just the ghost that's haunted my memories. My body betrays me with an instant physical reaction, heart racing, palms sweating, that familiar heat blooming low in my stomach. Time stops, literally stops. My breath catches in my throat as 5 years of carefully constructed defenses crumble in an instant. Anna. My name on his lips is like a physical touch. His voice is deeper, with a hint of British inflection that does things to my insides I refuse to acknowledge. Memories flood back unbidden, his hands in my hair during late-night strategy sessions, the way he used to press me against my office door after everyone had left, the sound of his laugh when I'd say something particularly sarcastic. "Oh, Jake, I'm proud that my voice doesn't shake. Welcome back." He moves toward me, and my body reacts traitorously. The same electricity that used to crackle between us is there, undiminished by time or distance or hurt. I catch a hint of his cologne, different from before but somehow still essentially him, and my knees nearly buckle. It's been a while," he says softly, those blue eyes searching my face like he's memorizing it. Or remembering it. Before I can respond, a familiar voice cuts through the tension. "Anna!" Surprise! My head snaps around to see Laura rising from her seat at the conference table. What is she doing here? When she'd emailed about Jake's return, she'd, conveniently, left out this detail. She moves toward me and I notice how she positions herself next to Jake. "I couldn't let Jake face New York alone," she says, her hand brushing his arm. He steps away from her touch so subtly most wouldn't notice, but I do. Something flickers in his eyes. Discomfort? "It's good to see you, Laura," I manage before taking my seat. "Shall we begin?" Harrison, the head of the board's voice breaks through the tension, and I take my seat, hyper-aware of Jake settling into a chair across from me, Laura claiming the spot beside him. Harrison starts speaking, but his words are white noise. All I can focus on is the war inside me, the professional who remembers betrayal, the woman who remembers passion, and the fool who apparently still wants both. Jake looks up, catches me watching him. Something flashes in his eyes. Regret? Longing? Before I can analyze it, he gives me that half smile that used to be my undoing. Still is. Damn him. I grip my pen harder, trying to ground myself in the present. I'm not that naive girl anymore. I've learned my lesson about mixing business with pleasure.
The sight of Anna hits me like a physical blow. Time hasn't dimmed her effect on me at all. If anything, time has only enhanced her allure. She's traded her old conservative suits for a sleek navy dress that hints at curves I remember all too well. Her hair is shorter now, framing her face in sophisticated layers, but her lips still have that subtle quirk that always meant she was holding back a sharp observation. Laura's presence beside me feels like an anchor dragging me down, and for the first time, I wish she hadn't followed me here. I shift my chair slightly, creating distance, but my eyes are locked on Anna. Even now, after everything, she draws me like a magnet. The betrayal still stings, how she'd believed the worst of me, how she'd frozen me out without a chance to explain, but God help me, I still want her. As you all know, Harrison begins, Miller & Ross is expanding its global presence. we're creating a new position, Global Creative Director of Strategic Development. The air in the room shifts. Anna's spine straightens infinitesimally. I recognize that subtle tell from our days working together. She's interested. The position, Harrison continues, will oversee our international portfolio, including our newest acquisition, the Reynolds Corporation Global Rebrand. My pulse quickens. Reynolds is the holy grail of corporate rebranding, a century-old company looking to modernize while maintaining their heritage. Every agency in the business has been vying for this opportunity. We've decided to run an internal competition for the position. Harrison's eyes move between Anna and me. Our two top candidates will work together on the Reynolds pitch. The successful strategy will determine our new global creative director. The irony isn't lost on me. 5 years ago, we were unstoppable together, our creative synergy the talk of the industry. Now, we're competitors, weighted down by unspoken accusations and unanswered questions. The budget is unlimited, Harrison adds. We want your best work. Together. I risk a glance at Anna. She's wearing her poker face, the one that used to drive our clients crazy because they could never read her, but I see the slight tremor in her hand as she takes notes. That's new. Laura shifts beside me, clearing her throat. I'll be assisting Jake, of course, she announces, her voice carrying that proprietary tone that makes my jaw clench. Actually, Harrison interjects, this project requires complete confidentiality. Only our candidates will have access to the materials. Relief floods through me, followed immediately by anticipation. Working with Anna again without interference, the possibility is both thrilling and terrifying. You have 6 weeks, Harrison concludes. Make it spectacular. The meeting ends, and people begin filing out. Anna gathers her things with precise movements, but I catch her stealing glances at me. The old electricity crackles between us, complicated now by years of hurt and misunderstanding. I should be focused on the competition, on the career-making opportunity in front of me. Instead, all I can think about is how we'll manage to work together when every look, every gesture, every shared memory is loaded with both attraction and resentment. Laura touches my arm. We should discuss strategy. Not now, I cut her off, my eyes still on Anna as she heads for the door. 6 weeks of working closely with the woman who broke my heart. 6 weeks to either clear the air or destroy each other professionally. Game on, Anna Miller, game on.
The conference room feels smaller than I remember, or maybe it's just Jake's presence that seems to consume all the available oxygen. We're supposed to be reviewing the Reynolds brief, but the tension between us crackles like live wire. Your athletic wear campaign was brilliant, Jake says suddenly, breaking the silence. His voice carries that new British lilt that does inappropriate things to my insides. Though the digital integration was unexpected. I arch an eyebrow. Unexpected good or unexpected amateur? Unexpected. He leans back, loosening his tie. The gesture is so familiar it hurts. You used to prefer traditional media. And you used to prefer honesty. I snap before I can stop myself. Damn it. His blue eyes darken. Funny, I was about to say the same thing. We both stare at the brief, the weight of unspoken accusations hanging between us. I force myself to focus on the papers, not on how his cologne still makes my pulse race, not on how his fingers drum against the table in that rhythm I remember from late-night strategy sessions that turned into something else entirely. I assume you'll want to lead the brand positioning. His tone is carefully neutral. Unless you're planning to take that over too, the words slip out before I can catch them. Like you took over the Callahan presentation? His jaw tightens. Or is that another thing we're not talking about? I stand abruptly, needing space. We should divide the workload, minimize interaction. Scared, Miller? There's a challenge in his voice that makes heat pool in my stomach. Of you? I turn to face him, regretting it immediately. He's stood too, and we're suddenly too close. Please. I've spent 5 years proving I don't need you. Need? No. His eyes drop to my lips for a fraction of a second. Want might be a different story. The air between us feels electric. I step back, my hip hitting the conference table. We're not doing this. Doing what? He moves closer, and I catch a hint of the cologne that used to linger on my sheets. Talking about work? Or talking about how you believed everyone except me? Never gave me anything to believe in. My voice shakes slightly. You just left. I tried to explain. The timeline? I cut him off, desperate to maintain control. Or the market research you conveniently forgot to share. Something flashes in his eyes. What are you talking about? Everything. I'm talking about everything, and suddenly I'm finding it hard to breathe. I have to get out of here. I gather my papers, hands trembling slightly. I'll take the consumer analysis and brand heritage. You handle market positioning and digital strategy. His voice softens, and it's almost worse than his anger. 6 weeks, I say firmly, heading for the door. We work separately. We meet only when necessary. We win this thing. And then? I pause at the threshold, not turning around because I don't trust myself to look at him. And then we go back to our separate corners, just like last time. Last time wasn't my choice, he says quietly. I grip my portfolio tighter. Wasn't it? I walk away before he can answer, before I can give in to the urge to turn around, to demand explanations to see if his lips still taste the same. 6 weeks. I just have to survive 6 weeks. But as I reach my office, my whole body is still shaking, and I can't tell if it's from anger, desire, or the terrifying suspicion that maybe, just maybe, I don't know the whole story after all. 3 weeks into the Reynolds project, my phone explodes with notifications at 2 a.m. The campaign's test site has crashed, taking with it our market research and preliminary designs. Worse, the backup servers are corrupted. My phone rings. Jake. I assume you're seeing this. His voice is tight with tension. I'm already heading to the office. I'm throwing on clothes, trying not to remember how he used to love this silk blouse. How bad? Bad enough that Harrison called an emergency meeting. He wants us to work together to salvage it. Of course he does. I'll be there in 15. The office is eerily quiet when I arrive, except for the conference room, where Jake has already set up Command Central. His jacket is off, sleeves rolled up, showing forearms I definitely shouldn't be noticing right now. Coffee, he says, pushing a cup toward me without looking up from his laptop. Still take it black? The fact that he remembers makes something twist in my chest. Thanks. We work in tense silence for an hour, shoulders occasionally brushing as we lean over the same screen. Each contact sends electricity shooting through my body, and from the way Jake's breath catches, I'm not the only one affected. The coding's completely scrambled, he mutters. But look at this timestamp. The corruption started before the crash. I lean closer, catching the scent of his cologne. That's impossible unless it was deliberate, we say simultaneously. Our eyes meet. In crisis mode, we fall back into our old rhythm naturally, finishing each other's thoughts, anticipating each other's moves. It's intoxicating and terrifying. Remember the Singapore account? He asks suddenly, his voice soft. When we pulled an all-nighter to fix the media buy? Jake, corrected Jake, warning in my tone. You fell asleep on my shoulder around 4 a.m. He's not looking at me, but his voice is heavy with memory. That was the first time I wanted to kiss you. Don't. But I'm not moving away. The warmth of his body next to mine is achingly familiar and dangerous. The code corruption, he clears his throat, professional mask slipping back into place. It's targeted specifically at our shared files. I force myself to focus on the screen, not on how his fingers brush mine as we scroll through the data. The timing's too perfect, right when we're competing for the position. And look at this. He pulls up another window. The server logs show unauthorized access from within the building. Internal sabotage? I lean closer, squinting at the timestamps. But who would... Wait. Jake's voice sharpens. These access points. They're identical to what happened with the Callahan presentation 5 years ago. My head snaps up. What are you talking about? A muscle bulges along his jaw as he clenches his teeth. The day everything fell apart, I was across town because someone had leaked our strategy to the competition. I was trying to salvage it, but when I got back, I was already presenting. The memory still stings. Because I found out you were planning to... Planning to what, Anna? Tank the presentation. Take credit for the recovery. The words sound hollow now, even to me. I saw the emails, the modified files. Jake turns to face me fully, his eyes intense. What emails? The ones... I stop, frowning. The ones Laura showed me. Something clicks in my mind. Jake's expression tells me he's reaching the same conclusion. Laura, he says slowly, who always seemed to have just the right information at just the right time. Laura, who transferred to London right after you did. Who somehow knew about every private meeting, every file change. Because she had access to everything. My voice shakes. As your assistant. Jake pulls up another screen, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Look at the access logs from 5 years ago. The timestamps match exactly when she said she was discovering evidence against me. My stomach churns. And now she's back, just in time for this competition. Is access to both our files again. The implications hit me like a physical blow. 5 years of believing the worst, of nursing hurt and betrayal, all because... Oh God. I sink into a chair. Jake? Sound. His voice is gentle. We both got played. But I believed her, without even giving you a chance to explain. The guilt is overwhelming. And then you left for Singapore. Because she made sure Harrison heard about my crisis management skills right when they needed someone there. His laugh is bitter. She must have orchestrated the whole thing. We sit in stunned silence, the hum of computers the only sound. 5 years of misunderstandings and hurt stretching between us, all carefully engineered by someone we both trusted. Jake? My voice is barely a whisper. What do we do now? He reaches for my hand, and this time I don't pull away. First, we fix this system crash. Then... Ben? Jake stares at our joined hands for a long moment, then mutters, "The hell with it. The files can wait." Before I can process what's happening, he pulls me to him, one hand tangling in my hair as his lips crash into mine. 5 years of pent-up emotion explode in that kiss. Anger, hurt, longing, and underneath it all, that same devastating chemistry that drew us together in the first place. I should stop this. We should focus on the crisis, on Laura's betrayal, on all the reasons this is a terrible idea. Instead, I find myself kissing him back with equal fervor, my fingers gripping his shirt, drawing him closer. He tastes exactly as I remember, coffee and mint, and something uniquely Jake that I've never been able to forget. Anna. He breathes against my lips, and my name sounds like both a prayer and a curse. God, I've missed you. 5 years, he murmurs against my skin. 5 years of wondering if you ever doubted what they told you, if you ever missed me like I missed you. Jake. My voice breaks as his hands span my waist, lifting me onto the conference table. Files scatter to the floor, but neither of us care. Tell me to stop. His forehead rests against mine, both of us breathing heavily. Tell me this isn't what you want. Instead of answering, I pull him back to me, pouring 5 years of longing into the kiss. His groan vibrates through me as his hands slide up my thighs, bunching my skirt. A door slams somewhere in the office. We spring apart, reality crashing back like a bucket of cold water. My hair is messed, His shirt is half untucked, and we're both looking thoroughly kissed. I smooth my skirt, trying to gather my scattered thoughts. We should focus on the files, right? Jake runs a hand through his disheveled hair, but his eyes are still dark with desire. But Anna? Anna, yes. This isn't over. We're not over. His voice is rough with emotion. Not now that I know the truth. I bite my lip, tasting him still. The truth about Laura's manipulation or the truth about us? Both. His finger traces my jawline. We fix this system crash, we deal with Laura, and then... His smile is both wicked and tender. And then I finish what I just started. Properly? Without interruption. The promise in his voice makes me shiver. We should get back to work. We should, but he doesn't move away. Just answer one thing first. Why? Did you ever stop loving me? His vulnerability in that moment nearly breaks me. Because I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day in 5 years. The computers hum in the background, reminding us of the crisis at hand. But in this moment, with the truth finally emerging and Jake looking at me like that, only one answer is possible. No, I whisper. It never stopped. His smile is like sunrise breaking through clouds. Then he steps back, professional mask sliding back into place, though his eyes still burn with promise. Right then, let's catch ourselves a saboteur.
It's 4 a.m., and Anna is perched on my desk, her heels discarded hours ago. The sight of her bare feet, her guard finally down around me, does things to my heart I can't quite handle. All this time, wasted. Looking at her now, the signs of Laura's manipulation seem blindingly obvious. How she'd always managed to be there when Anna and I argued, offering sympathetic ears to both sides. How she'd drop casual comments about seeing me in private meetings, knowing Anna's insecurities about office politics. The way she'd forward emails to Anna with certain parts highlighted, parts that could be interpreted as betrayal if you were already primed to look for it. I was such an idiot, Anna says suddenly, as if reading my thoughts. All those little things Laura did. God, Jake, how did I not see it? Because she was good at what she did. I moved to stand in front of her, unable to resist touching her knee. She played on every insecurity, every fear. She knew exactly what buttons to push. Anna's voice is bitter. About being a woman in this industry, about office relationships being unprofessional, about ambitious men seeing successful women as threats. And then there was Singapore. The memory still burns. How convenient that the crisis happened right when we were most vulnerable, when you were already doubting me. She engineered that too, didn't she? Anna looks up at me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. The transfer, the timing, all of it. Classic isolation tactics. My hands find her waist, drawing her closer. And I played right into it by leaving. Her fingers curl into my shirt. We lost 5 years because I was too proud, too scared to just ask you directly, to trust what we had. Hey, I tilt her chin up. We both got played. She knew exactly what she was doing, creating doubt, feeding our fears, making sure we were too hurt and angry to talk to each other. But all those nights I spent analyzing everything, convinced you'd betrayed me, her voice breaks. When really, you were across town trying to save our project. Then in Singapore, London, I pushed you away when I should have fought for us. We're fighting now, I remind her softly, and this time we're fighting together. Anna's analytical mind kicks in. I can see it in the way her eyes sharpen, even as her fingers remain curled in my shirt. She has access to all your files as your assistant, and she's been using that access to monitor everything. I run my hand down her arm, unable to stop touching her now that I can. Every email, every document. Wait. Anna sits up straighter. That's it, your files. We can use that. I raise an eyebrow. What are you thinking? Laura's whole game is information control, right? She manipulates what people see, what they believe. Anna slides off the desk, pacing as she thinks. So what if we give her exactly what she expects to see? Create a folder of private emails between us, messages that look like we're conspiring against her, planning to expose her past manipulations. Anna's eyes are bright with strategy. She won't be able to resist accessing them. And when she does, I start to smile, seeing where this is going. We'll have proof of unauthorized access. Plus, the IT team can track exactly what she's been doing with your files for the past 5 years. Anna stops pacing, including what happened with the Callahan presentation. It's risky, I warn. If she suspects anything, she won't. Anna moves back between my legs, her hands on my shoulders, because she still thinks we hate each other, still thinks her manipulation worked. I catch her waist, drawing her closer. We'll have to be convincing, keep up appearances in the office. I can handle that, but her smile falters. Although, the thought of pretending to hate you, even for a few days, her fingers trace my jaw. I've done enough of that for a lifetime. I capture her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. Then we don't pretend to hate each other, we just act professional, distant. Let her think we're too focused on the Reynolds project to notice anything else. Well, actually, we set up a trail of breadcrumbs too tempting for her to resist. I pull her closer. Private folders, encrypted emails, late-night meetings she's not invited to. She'll be desperate to know what we're planning. Anna's smile turns wicked. And when she accesses those files, we'll have her. I can't resist brushing my lips across her temple. The system will log every unauthorized access, every forwarded email, every manipulated file, including the ones from 5 years ago. Especially those. I meet her eyes. Ready to take down the woman who tore us apart? Anna's answer is to kiss me hard and quick, more than ready. But Jake? Well, when this is over, her eyes hold both promise and vulnerability. No more wasted time? I pull her back to me, kissing her properly this time, trying to pour 5 years of longing into one kiss. No more wasted time, I promise against her lips. We break apart reluctantly, turning to the computers to set our trap. But this time, as we work through the night, there's no distance between us. No doubts, no fears, no manipulations. Just us, together, finally fighting on the same side again. Laura won't know what hit her.
Jake enters the boardroom first, and as always, Laura follows on his heels like a shadow. My stomach turns watching her possessive little touches, straightening his already perfect tie, brushing imaginary lint from his shoulder. Each contact makes him tense imperceptibly, but I notice, of course I notice, especially after last night. The memory of his hands on my skin, his whispered apologies and promises against my neck, the way we'd barely made it through my apartment door before 5 years of separation combusted into desperate passion, it all floods back, making my cheeks warm. We'd finally talked, really talked, between rounds of making up for lost time. His body moving over mine, under mine, the familiar rhythm we'd never forgotten. I force my thoughts back to the present as Laura perches herself, unnecessarily close to Jake. If she notices how he shifts away, she ignores it. She's wearing that same proprietary smile she always does around him, the one that used to alleviate my doubts. Not anymore. Jake catches my eye across the table, and for a moment, I see a flash of last night in his expression, the way he'd looked at me as we lay tangled in my sheets, both of us wondering how we'd survived 5 years apart. Then, his professional mask slides back into place, though his knee finds mine under the table. "Miss Howard," Harrison begins, his tone deceptively casual, "you accessed several confidential files last night." Laura's hand brushes Jake's arm as she reaches for her tablet. He flinches almost imperceptibly, and I remember him telling me last night, between kisses, how her constant touching made his skin crawl, how he'd endured it only because she was efficient at her job, never suspecting the depth of her manipulation. "Of course, sir." Her smile is confident, practiced. As Jake's assistant, I routinely monitor, including files from 5 years ago? Jake cuts her off, moving his arm from her reach. The ice in his voice makes her smile falter for the first time. I watch her face, remembering how she'd played us both. But now, with the truth between us, with the taste of Jake's kisses still on my lips, and the marks of our reunion hidden under my silk blouse, her manipulations are transparent. Her house of cards is about to collapse, and Laura doesn't even know she's standing in the wreckage. Time for revenge. A flicker of uncertainty crosses Laura's face as she stares at the files. I was just doing research. Research? I lean forward, sliding another folder across the table. Like researching how to manipulate email timestamps? Or how to doctor calendar entries? My voice is steady, but inside I'm shaking with suppressed rage. Laura's hands tremble as she opens the folder. Her eyes widen at the first page, a detailed log of every file she's accessed, every modification she's made. We have everything, Laura. Jake's voice could freeze hell. He stands, moving away from her. Every unauthorized access, every altered document, every fabricated email you used to convince Anna I was betraying her. I don't. She looks around the boardroom, finding no allies in the stern faces surrounding her. Shall we start with the Callahan presentation? I pull up the digital logs on the main screen. How you created false meeting entries to make it look like Jake was going behind my back. Or perhaps, Jake continues, his disgust evident, we should discuss how you engineered the strategy leak that sent me across town that day, the one that conveniently gave you time to show Anna your carefully crafted evidence? The blood drains from Laura's face as timestamp after timestamp appears on screen, her manipulation laid bare in clinical, digital detail. It's quite impressive, really, I say, my tone conversational but deadly. How you played us both. Showing me just enough to make me doubt everything, while making sure Jake was always conveniently unavailable for explanation. You don't understand, Laura's voice cracks. I was protecting the company. By orchestrating Jake's transfer to Singapore, I cut her off. By making sure I blocked his number before he could explain. By following him to London to keep controlling his career. It's not. Show her the Singapore logs, Jake tells IT. Another screen fills with data. See those timestamps, Laura? The ones showing you accessed confidential HR files right before the crisis that required my transfer? I didn't. Laura's composure shatters completely. It goes deeper, Jake adds, his voice hard. Show them the Reynolds crash data, Anna. Laura's head snaps up, genuine fear in her eyes now. What? The system crash last week? I smile without warmth. The one that brought all this to light? We traced the corruption signature. Matches perfectly with what happened 5 years ago. You've been playing this game for years, Jake continues, disgust evident in every word. Using your position as my assistant to manipulate files, control information, destroy relationships? I did it for Jake. The words burst out of her. She turns to him, desperate. Everything I did was for you. She was holding you back, making you weak. I could see your potential. My potential? Jake's laugh is harsh. You destroyed my relationship, manipulated my career, and you claim it was for my benefit? I love you, Laura's voice breaks. I've loved you for years, but you never saw me. It was always her. The boardroom falls silent. I feel Jake tense beside me. So you decided to destroy us. His voice is dangerously quiet. Because I didn't return your feelings? You would have eventually. Laura's mascara is running now. If she wasn't in the picture, we work so well together. We work together because it's your job. Jake cuts her off. A job you used to systematically destroy something real. Is old? Harrison's voice cuts through the tension. Are you admitting to deliberately manipulating confidential company data and engaging in corporate espionage? Laura's mascara-streaked face pales further. I was just accessing restricted files? Harrison picks up a document. Altering company records? Fabricating evidence to sabotage 2 senior executives? It wasn't like that. Laura's voice rises hysterically. Everything I did was for Jake's career. By destroying mine? I interrupt coldly. By manipulating both our professional reputations? The company takes corporate espionage very seriously, Harrison continues, pressing a button on his desk phone. Claire, please call security and notify the police. Laura's eyes widen in genuine fear. Police? Data manipulation of this scale is a criminal offense, Harrison explains, his tone glacial. Especially given the international scope. Singapore, London, crossing borders makes this rather serious. 2 security guards enter the boardroom. Behind them, I glimpse 2 police officers in the hallway here, all ready. You can't do this, Laura turns to Jake, desperate. Tell them I did it for us. There is no us. Jake's voice is firm. There never was. You didn't just commit corporate espionage, Laura. You spent 5 years systematically destroying lives for your own obsession. Miss Howard, one of the police officers steps forward. We need you to come with us. No, I'm not going. Laura's cheeks are stained with black. I suggest you go, Harrison adds. The company is prepared to press full charges. 5 years of documented evidence makes for quite a case. Laura's professional facade crumbles completely. Jake, please, I love you. Everything I did was criminal, Jake cuts her off, and delusional. Officers, she's all yours. As the police lead her away, her sobs echoing down the hallway, Harrison turns to the board. Given these extraordinary circumstances, I believe we need to reevaluate several things. He looks between Jake and me. Starting with the global creative director position. Perhaps a co-directorship would better serve the company's interests? Jake's hand finds mine under the table. I think we could work with that arrangement. Very well. Harrison stands. The police will need statements from both of you, and I imagine the company lawyers will be in touch about pursuing charges. As the board files out, leaving us alone in the aftermath, Jake turns to me. You okay? I let out a shaky breath. 5 years of manipulation ended in 20 minutes. And a possible prison sentence, he adds grimly. Corporate espionage across international borders, she's facing serious time. Good. The word comes out harder than I intended, but Jake just pulls me closer. It's over, he whispers against my hair. She can't hurt us anymore. And as we sit there, in the quiet of the boardroom, where everything just changed, I finally feel the weight of 5 years lifting. Laura will face justice, but more importantly, Jake and I can finally face our future. Together, this time, the way it always should have been. 1 year later. The New York skyline glitters through our office windows. Yes, our office. After Harrison created the joint global creative director position, Jake and I decided sharing a space made sense. Professional boundaries are important, of course, but so is the ability to bounce ideas off each other at a moment's notice. Laura's serving 5 years for corporate espionage and wire fraud. Sometimes I still can't believe the extent of her manipulation, how she nearly destroyed us. But then Jake will catch my eye across a meeting room, or his hand will find mine under a conference table, and I remember what we fought to reclaim. Our first joint campaign won 3 international awards. Turns out what Laura feared most was true. Together, Jake and I are unstoppable. Our different approaches complement each other perfectly, his creative brilliance flowing seamlessly into my strategic thinking. The industry calls us the dynamic duo, though Harrison just calls us his best investment. Ready for dinner! Jake appears in the doorway, jacket slung over his shoulder in that casually elegant way that still makes my heart skip. That new place on the Upper East Side has been holding our reservation for an hour. Almost. I gesture to my screen, showing our record-breaking metrics. The London campaign is exceeding all projections. We're up 40% from last quarter. He moves behind my chair, and his hands find my shoulders, kneading away the tension I didn't even realize I was carrying. His cologne, still the same after all these years, wraps around me like a familiar embrace. The London office can wait until tomorrow. Some things are more important. says the workaholic who was here until midnight yesterday, but I lean back into his touch, letting my eyes close as his fingers work their magic. What was so urgent anyway? There was different. There's something in his voice, a tension and anticipation that makes me open my eyes. I had to make sure everything was perfect for tonight. I turn to look at him, finding an intensity in his gaze that sends shivers down my spine. In the fading sunlight, his blue eyes are almost navy, and they're watching me with an emotion that steals my breath. Perfect for what? Instead of answering, he turns my chair to face him completely. My heart stops as he drops to one knee, the dying sunlight casting a halo around him. Anna Miller. His voice is steady, but his hands shake slightly as he pulls out a vintage velvet box. 5 years ago, I let manipulation and misunderstanding tear us apart. I've spent every day since we found our way back, wondering how I survived those years without you. This past year has shown me what I always knew, that together we're not just better at our jobs, we're better at everything. I'd give the greatest gift you people ever gave us. And I'd ask for a better job. Tears blur my vision as he opens the box, revealing a stunning Art Deco ring, the diamonds catching the sunset and throwing rainbows across our office walls. You're my partner in every sense of the word, my best friend, my fiercest competitor, my greatest supporter. I love you. I never stopped loving you, even when I thought I'd lost you forever, and I promise to spend the rest of my life making up for the time we lost. His blue eyes shine with emotion, and I see tears gathering there too. Will you marry me? Yes, I whisper, then louder as joy bubbles up inside me. Yes! The ring slides perfectly onto my finger. Of course it does, he's always known me better than anyone. And then he's pulling me into his arms. His kiss tastes of promise and forever, of second chances and hard-won happiness, of 5 years of longing finally fulfilled. I had a whole speech planned. He murmurs against my lips, his hands tangling in my hair. About how you make me better, how we're strongest together, how watching you lead meetings still takes my breath away. Save it for the wedding. I kiss him again, deeper this time, savoring the moment and the man I almost lost. We have time. And we do. Time to build our empire together. Time to love without doubt or fear. Time to create the future that was always meant to be ours. Laura's manipulation cost us 5 years, but her bitterness is being served out in a prison cell while our love grows stronger every day. Because real love, like the best campaigns, can weather any storm if you believe in it enough to fight for it. And we fought, through lies and manipulation, through hurt and misunderstanding, through 5 years of separation, to get here. Jake pulls back just enough to rest his forehead against mine, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. I love you. I love you too. The ring catches the last rays of sunset as I cup his face, the diamonds throwing light patterns across his skin. Always have, always will. Outside our office, New York hums with endless possibility, a city that never sleeps but always dreams. But in here, in this moment, with Jake's arms around me and promises on our lips, everything we need is already in our grasp. Ah, together, just as we were always meant to be.
Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed the story, hit subscribe so you never miss a new tale. Your support means the world. See you in the next chapter.